Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button and join us on this epic story. Our story commences with the entire planet engulfed in flames. This planet, known as Hela, is a world filled with ceaseless battles, monstrous creatures like dragons and orcs, and an unimaginable number of victims. People fought against this hellish realm, and our protagonist, against his will, found himself thrust into this world. His sword and eventually his hands became stained with blood as everything around him burned relentlessly. The protagonist came to understand that in this world, the rule was simple: either you kill or you are killed. He shouted to his fellow warriors, urging them not to lose heart, and commanded them to charge into battle. Without hesitation, everyone rushed towards the enemy, their hands and swords dripping with blood, their bodies consumed by the same fiery determination. The protagonist slew another foe, and as he and the person beside him stared in disbelief, their bodies drenched in cold sweat, they beheld a true demon, a creature straight from the depths of hell. It was colossal, with brown skin and eyes that glowed with an infernal orange light. Its essence seemed to emanate flames, and mighty horns adorned its head. The protagonist stood face to face with the demon, their gazes locked. The fear in the companion's eyes vanished as he mustered his courage, gripped his sword tightly, and prepared for battle. Determined to go all the way, the protagonist propelled himself off the ground, soaring towards the demon's menacing visage. With his bloodied and icy weapon pointed at the demon, he shouted for the abomination to face him. The already enraged demon grew even more furious, causing the flames around it to burn brighter. Time passed, sparks floated in the air, and the fire continued to rage, albeit without the clamor of battle. All the people were dead, their bodies consumed by the relentless flames. The protagonist had expended all his strength, bearing numerous wounds and scratches, with only a pitiful fragment of a sword remaining. He bled profusely, but his efforts were not in vain. The demon, too, showed no signs of life, lying motionless and face down. A pool of blood beneath it indicated that it had met its end, shattered like the previous foes. However, this victory may have come at a cost, for the protagonist had lost an arm and was now descending towards the ground, unable to save himself. As he fell, he gazed into the defeated enemy's lifeless eyes, sensing no more strength, spirit, or emotion, only the weariness of death. The protagonist closed his eyes, accepting that this realm of death would be his final resting place. Suddenly, his eyes reopened, and to his surprise, there was no blood, no wounds, no injuries. He stood up and examined himself, shocked to find no traces of harm. However, something was amiss, an ominous dark aura surrounded him. Confused about what lay ahead, Kang Hyuk, the victorious warrior, felt an inexplicable desire to command the defeated creatures. He noticed a multitude of skeletons behind him, all bearing the same red eyes as his own. He extended his hand, and a black aura enveloped it. The more formidable his enemies had been, the more potent his army became. For the most part, people had fought against the forces of hell, but now, in Hela, Kang Hyuk's adversaries consisted of individuals with diverse abilities. Some wielded magic, others were agile assassins, and a few were masterful swordsmen. After a decade of battling formidable opponents, Kang Hyuk finally discovered a portal that would lead him to another dimension. However, his brother yearned to return to Earth. His brother, who had blonde hair and brown eyes, was remarkably different from him. In contrast, Kang Hyuk had black hair and red eyes, giving him a distinctly unique appearance. When his brother gently suggested that Hyuk accompany him, Kang Hyuk remained silent for a moment. Eventually, he lowered his head, closed his eyes, and expressed to his brother that he had done all he could to assist him. However, he acknowledged that from that point forward, he would have to face his challenges alone. Understandingly, his brother looked at him and smiled with kindness shining in his eyes. Kang Hyuk knew that his brother comprehended his unspoken thoughts, as he had always been perceptive in that manner. Even during their time on Earth and after being drafted to Hela, his brother had maintained a friendly and cheerful demeanor. 6 years had passed since his brother's return to Earth, and in that time, Kang Hyuk had risen to become a supreme necromancer, the feared victor of death and the leader of the undead. He had developed a deep hatred for all living things, and he was both feared and respected by other necromancers. Kang Hyuk chose to remain in this hellish realm, as it provided an outlet for his desire to kill, which he couldn't indulge in on Earth. Countless lives had fallen victim to his hands, making him the epitome of an awakened necromancer. Amidst the chaos of the demon castle in hell, Kang Hyuk, standing amidst the turmoil, felt as if he truly belonged. In this disheveled environment, the Lord of Death, Desmond Rodrich, approached Kang Hyuk with an urgent report. Kang Hyuk, who now held the position of Lord, listened attentively as Desmond informed him of the death of his brother, who had been residing in the human world. Initially, Kang Hyuk remained unresponsive, but then his armor began to emit a blue light, causing the surroundings to tremble. A black aura engulfed his body, accompanied by lightning-like discharges and a violent explosion. Kang Hyuk turned his attention to Desmond, demanding more details. The mask covering Kang Hu's face fell off, revealing his features as he looked down at Desmond from above. He sought further clarification regarding his brother's demise. Desmond Rodrich, the spirit of death and Kang Hyuk's right-hand man, possessed the ability to perceive all living souls across various dimensions. He explained that by serving under the shadow of death, he honored King Hela, the lord of the demon castle. As Desmond spoke, an image of someone appeared on the glass behind him. Desmond divulged that Kang Hyuk had previously tasked him with tracking his brother's soul in the human world, and he had recently confirmed that his brother's soul had been separated from his body. To substantiate his claim, Desmond summoned his brother's apparition. The two brothers stood face to face, with the vacant gaze in his brother's eyes indicating that he had experienced death firsthand. Kang Hyuk remarked that his brother looked exactly as he did the last time they met, despite the passage of 6 long years since his return to Earth. The protagonist extended his hand towards his brother's lifeless body and activated the dead man's gaze, a cloudy and ominous power. Two individuals stood nearby, one with blood-covered hands and long claw-like nails. He exhaled and expressed relief that he's finally dead. He remarked that even the world's strongest warrior couldn't handle them alone, emphasizing the danger of underestimating one's own strength and suffering a painful, unnoticed death. Their attention turned to Kang Hyuk's brother's body, and they declared that now that they had killed Kang Min, their mission would commence. Desmond informed the Lord that upon his brother's return, they compared his soul to those of other earthlings. Kang Hyuk listened attentively as Desmond explained that they discovered his brother to be the strongest among them, although there were others who were slightly inferior. Kang Hyuk leaned on his arm and revealed that they were planning to invade Earth. This revelation surprised Desmond, who sought clarification. The Lord instructed him to inform the 5 nobles that he would soon summon them. This statement left Desmond even more astounded. Kang Hyuk contemplated the 5 powerful necromancers who had pledged their allegiance to him after he broke their seals. These monstrous beings, who had existed since the dark ages of Hela, had written their history in blood. Only by defeating them had Kang Hyuk been able to claim the demon castle of Garoa. Kang Hyuk prepared to depart, informing Desmond that he would remain in charge of the castle. He expressed confidence that there would be many who would seek to capture him in his absence. Desmond tried to dissuade him, citing the dangers of venturing to Earth alone. Kang Hyuk reassured him that he would call for help if needed, but he couldn't take them all with him. He asked if Desmond understood, to which Desmond affirmed his unwavering loyalty to follow his lord's orders. Kang Hyuk contemplated the formidable, meta-humans of Earth, humans who had evolved into powerful and bloodthirsty creatures. He couldn't comprehend how any of them could have defeated Kang Min, who were considered easy prey by Hela's standards. Yet, they had managed to kill Kang Min, leaving Kang Hyuk intrigued and eager to face these meta-humans himself. He smiled and informed Desmond that there was no one left for him to kill in this world. Kang Hyuk recounted the fierce battle he had with Kang Min for control of the castle. He asked if Kang Min truly desired to leave this world and return home. Kang Min turned to his brother in silence, but Kang Hyuk persisted, questioning if he realized that by staying with him, they could share power over this world. Kang Min queried if, after everything that had transpired, Kang Hyuk still felt nothing, not even at a moment like this. Reflecting upon himself, Kang Hyuk realized that he was indeed incapable of feeling anything, no sadness, no love. He wondered if his ruthlessness had aided him in Hela's world and propelled him to the heights of power and strength. At that moment, Kang Min reached out his hands to his brother. They shared a brief embrace, and behind Kang Min, a portal appeared, signifying their departure. Expressing that regardless of the circumstances, he hoped that one day Kang Hyuk would find solace on Earth. Kang Hyuk found himself taken aback by this revelation. He pondered whether it was even possible to find comfort on Earth. He recollected feeling out of place both at school and work, never truly at ease anywhere. The more people surrounded him, the stronger his urge to kill became, but he knew that Kang Min, being normal, couldn't understand that. Kang Min dismissed him, stating that they wouldn't see each other again until he decided to return to Earth. Kang Hyuk earnestly asked his brother to contemplate this. As a portal materialized, before Kang Hyuk and Desmond, they stepped forward. Kang Hyuk contemplated the fact that he, Kang Hyuk, the supreme necromancer of Hela, the Lord of Death, and the commander of the undead, driven by bloodlust for all living things, was returning to Earth for this very purpose. Desmond informed the Lord that the gateway to Earth was open. In Seoul, South Korea, rain poured from the sky, and tall apartment buildings loomed ahead. A portal manifested. Suddenly, his hand emerged, accompanied by short bursts of lightning, and he finally emerged from the world of Hela. Surveying his surroundings, he remarked that there appeared to be no one around. Desmond assured the Lord that he had safely returned to Earth. Kang Hyuk inquired if he had already informed the 5 nobles, to which Desmond affirmed, adding that they were ready to answer the Lord's call at any time. Delighted by this news, Kang Hyuk then inquired about the extent of his power on the ground. Desmond replied that he could use all the power he possessed, as the atmosphere was saturated with mana. This pleased the Lord of the Demon Castle. Desmond assured Kang Hyuk that he would maintain constant contact with him, serving as his eyes and ears. Kang Hyuk nodded, contemplating an important realization. He was greatly perplexed by the fact that this was not the Earth he once knew. The planet had been transformed by the awakening of people's abilities following a disaster 16 years ago. Metahumans now controlled many cities worldwide, including Seoul. Additionally, prior to his arrival in Hela, numerous dungeons and monsters had appeared. With his red eyes fixated on a tall and somber building with a crest atop it, Kang Hyuk deduced that the association was likely aware of Kang Min's death. He resolved to pay them a visit. 16 years ago, portals leading to dungeons from other dimensions began to open, unleashing terrifying monsters upon the land. The returned, individuals summoned to these dimensions, also began to appear, exhibiting immense strength. Kang Hyuk headed towards the impressive building before him, the Hunters Association, confident that this organization held knowledge about the circumstances surrounding Kang Min's demise, given his reputation as the strongest among them all. Upon entering the association, he approached the registration table, where 2 girls greeted him warmly, asking how they could assist him. He insisted on finding someone who knows Kang Min. The girl at the registration table inquired if he was referring to the recently deceased S-class hunter, Kang Min. Apologizing, she asked who he was. Kang Hyuk revealed that he was Kang Min's older brother, surprising the girl. She asked again, mentioning that Mr. Kang Min had no known relatives. The other girl whispered to her, prompting her to wait, and mentioned having an older brother. Finally, the first girl recalled and stated that he must be the brother who had refused to return to Earth. She asked him to wait for a moment. Kang Hyuk came to the realization that Kang Min hadn't hidden the fact that he had relatives, but he had kept quiet about the nature of his power. A man in a beige suit hurriedly approached them, apologizing for the misunderstanding. He explained that he had received a call about Kang Hyuk and had rushed over, out of breath from running. He introduced himself as Wang Sangwook, the director of the emergency department of the Korean Hunter Association. Sangwook smiled and confirmed that he was Kang Min's older brother. Kang Hyuk inquired about his brother's body. Slightly embarrassed, Sangwook wondered why he was speaking so informally, considering that Kang Min was his brother and thus important. However, he kept his thoughts to himself and explained that the association needed to conduct some checks to establish their relationship with Kang Min. He mentioned that Kang Hyuk was an A-class hunter but reassured him that they would be patient as Kang Min had recently passed away. Sangwook instructed Kang Hyuk to accompany him, and Kang Hyuk followed, asking about the purpose of the checks. Sangwook explained that after Kang Min's death, many imposters had tried to pass themselves off as his older brother, claiming to be the strongest hunter in the world and hoping to inherit his considerable fortune. He mentioned that the association had information about Kang Min's actual older brother, which had thwarted the imposters' attempts. Sangwook further elaborated that they were now in a circular elevator and would soon undergo a genetic test to confirm their relationship. As they exited the elevator, Sangwook pondered aloud about the possibility of Kang Hyuk truly being Kang Min's brother and how the genetic test would provide clarity. They entered a room filled with computers and monitors, where a girl with long golden hair greeted them. Kang Hyuk was already seated on a medical chair, and the girl informed him that they would conduct a quick blood test to analyze mana and genetic information. A syringe was used to draw blood from Kang Hyuk's arm, and the girl checked the results on a tablet, congratulating him cheerfully for being a metahuman, a mana user, and a blood relative of Kang Min. She mentioned that his mana test and genetic information confirmed their relationship. Sang-wook appeared displeased, and Kang Hyuk's expression mirrored his discontent. Sang-wook stated that since everything had been sorted out, they should proceed to his office, as he had something to discuss with Kang Min's older brother. He led Kang Hyuk, explaining that he was not only a hunter but also the sole member of Kang Min's family, making it difficult to explain everything in that room. Sang-wook also noticed that Kang Hyuk's clothes were wet. He turned around and rudely shouted at an employee to immediately call the supply department and request a change of clothes for the emergency department. Ahead, the doors to the office were visible, and a jacket hung on a chair inside. Kang Hyuk silently fastened the buttons on the white shirt that had been given to him. Female employees passed by the office, and the tinted glass walls allowed them to overhear conversations. The blonde girl asked her companion if she had heard that Kang Min's older brother had arrived at the office. The other girl expressed surprise that Kang Min had a brother. The blonde girl was taken aback that her friend was unaware, mentioning that Kang Min had mentioned his brother several times during the interview, stating that his brother resided in another dimension while Kang Min returned to Earth. The other girl asked how his brother managed to stay alive in that world. The blonde girl admitted that she had no idea. She also commented that Kang Min was handsome, and his brother was equally so. The other girl confirmed that it was exactly what she had said, adding that she noticed he appeared a bit pale and asked if her friend agreed. She responded that he simply had fair skin. The blonde girl remarked that Kang Min was in excellent shape, but his brother seemed frail and thin. The other girl concurred, describing him as delicate, like a fragile flower. Suddenly, Sang-wook rushed out into the hallway, asking who was gossiping and ordering both girls to go home. The girls felt embarrassed and apologized. Sang-wook entered the office and apologized on their behalf. By the way, he and Kang Hyuk were now dressed identically. Sang-wook mentioned that he had reported to the president of the association and requested permission to disclose all information about Kang Min to him. He explained that personal information regarding hunters was classified as secret, equivalent to a country's defense information. Nowadays, the assignments Kang Min had received, his personal information, and his abilities were all protected secrets, and only confirmed members of his family could access information about his contacts, assignments, and affiliated organizations. Sang-wook extended the documents to Kang Hyuk, stating that they contained much more information about his late brother, and they held all the answers to his questions. Kang Hyuk accepted the documents, initially remaining silent before asking if they had been monitoring his brother. Sang-wook responded that monitoring was too strong a word, clarifying that they didn't track every movement of their hunters. They were responsible for the country's security, so they kept the leadership informed. He emphasized that they didn't pry into the hunters' personal lives, as it was a sensitive subject. Their focus was on gathering basic information, such as in Kang Min's case. Kang Hyuk sought information about his brother's guild affiliation and personal details. He then inquired about the reason for Kang Min's death. Sang-wook exhaled and replied that Kang Min died in the line of duty. He explained that Kang Min had been sent on a mission to clear a large-scale dungeon, which involved hunters from several countries, including South Korea, Japan, Russia, the United States, and China. It was an unprecedented joint operation. Kang Min successfully defeated the dungeon boss but unfortunately perished in an accident. Kang Hyuk silently sat on the chair, listening to Sang-wook's account. However, he himself knew very well that there was no accident involved. Kang Hyuk utilized the "Look of the Dead" spell, enabling him to witness the final moments of his brother's life. It became evident to him that he had been killed, and if the association was unaware of this, then someone had attempted to conceal the circumstances surrounding Kang Min's death. Sang-wook produced a set of keys and informed Kang Hyuk that they belonged to Kang Min's property. He also handed him a piece of paper with the address, encouraging him to make himself at home and rest. Contemplating the situation, Kang Hyuk realized he needed to uncover the truth. Deciding to leave, he bid farewell to Sang-wook, who closed the door behind him. Sang-wook was greatly irritated by Kang Hyuk's behavior, questioning whether the lack of gratitude stemmed from his status as a returnee and Sang-wook's position as an A-class hunter. Despite this, Sang-wook acknowledged the immense strength possessed by Kang Hyuk, as he was summoned alongside Kang Min. Reflecting on Kang Hyuk's role as the older brother of the world's strongest hunter, Sang-wook watched him depart from the association building rooftop, anticipating that news of Kang Hyuk's arrival would spread worldwide. As evening approached, Kang Hyuk found himself in Kang Min's apartment, surrounded by various decorations. While perched on a black sofa, he examined some papers, reminiscing about Kang Min's life on Earth. Among the pictures, he stumbled upon one featuring Kang Min alongside a red-haired individual. Recognizing the person from his vision of Kang Min's last moments, Kang Hyuk also noticed that they shared the same tattoos, suggesting they belonged to the same guild. Intrigued, he began searching for more information about this guild and the person in question. Suddenly, his attention was drawn to the stack of documents that Sang-wook had given him. Realizing their significance, Kang Hyuk set off in a black car, driving towards Sudong, where the Garoa Guild office was located. Although he hadn't discovered any details about the guild members, Kang Hyuk believed that by making inquiries at the guild or meeting the red-haired individual, he might uncover more about his brother's death. Along his journey, Kang Hyuk's car encountered a strange plant on the road. Undeterred, he showed a picture of his brother and the red-haired individual to someone and expressed his desire to locate the hunter in the photograph, questioning if they knew the person's whereabouts. The black-haired girl at the front desk examined the photo and identified the hunter as Wang Kyuho. She then asked if Kang Hyuk could disclose the reason behind his search. Kang Hyuk informed the girl that it was a personal matter and expressed his need to meet Wang Kyuho in person. Unfortunately, she relayed that Wang Kyuho was currently absent from the office, as he had gone to close the gate near the station. She suggested leaving his name and phone number, assuring him that the guild's external affairs department would contact him when Wang Kyuho returned from his mission in a couple of days. Politely declining the offer, Kang Hyuk recalled the presence of Shinsa Station's gate ahead. As he descended the stairs, he observed people walking in the area. The gate at Shinsa Station served as an entrance to the subway and also acted as a portal to another dimension. However, it was blocked. In contrast to Earth, mana was easily recognizable in this dimension, particularly the portal mana. Undeterred, Kang Hyuk passed through the blockage, surprising the guards stationed there. One of the guards questioned his destination, warning him about the danger zone. The other guard, grabbing his shoulder, advised him to wait momentarily. He asked his colleague if he remembered that Wang Sang-wook had mentioned the return of Kang Min's older brother, remarking that the stranger bore a suspicious resemblance to the deceased hunter. The first guard expressed surprise and turned to Kang Hyuk, inquiring if he was indeed the one and only relative of the renowned Kang Min. Unfazed by their attention, Kang Hyuk stood before a rift in the wall, from which mana poured out in abundance. The blue and wide rift served as the gateway to the dungeon. Eventually, the guards greeted Kang Hyuk, with one of them approaching him and apologizing while cautioning him about the danger. Kang Hyuk remained silent and asked if the hunters had entered the portal. The guards confirmed this and mentioned that Wang Kyuho, the commander of the 1st Assault Brigade of the Garoa Guild, was currently conducting a sweep of the dungeon. Understanding the situation, Kang Hyuk stated that he would also go. This statement shocked the guard, who requested a momentary wait, as entering the dungeon required a certain level. However, the other guard intervened, noting that as Kang Min's older brother, Kang Hyuk must possess a level surpassing that of the dungeon. Without acknowledging their concerns, Kang Hyuk entered the dungeon, despite the guards' repeated warnings that entry required permission from the guild or the Hunter Association. The guard turned to his partner, unaware that Kang Hyuk had already entered, and expressed his frustration. Realizing their predicament, he suggested reporting the situation to their superiors, as any attempt to blame Kang Hyuk would result in him claiming that they allowed him entry. He assured his partner that the association would handle the matter. Inside the dungeon, Kang Hyuk approached the gate and began interacting with it, causing it to turn red and close the crack. Kang Hyuk found himself already within the dungeon, surrounded by corpses and numerous bones. Observing the softer atmosphere compared to hell, he looked ahead and noticed open doors, as well as monster bones strewn along the path, indicating their presence in the area. The protagonist stood beside a massive monster skeleton, several times larger than himself, with its skull intact. Kang Hyuk extended his hand forward and commanded the skeleton to rise. Blue mana emanated from his hand, and a liquid of some kind began to flow from the bones. Soon, the bones started levitating, giving birth to an entire army of skeletons, similar to Hal. These skeletal soldiers acknowledged Kang Hyuk as their lord and received his order to follow him. Together, they ascended a long staircase, with a bright light shining ahead. As they approached, they witnessed a man engaged in a loud battle with a horse-like monster. The monster had a massive neck and red eyes, and it shrieked wildly. In an instant, the man severed the monster's head from its body, wearing a smug smile on his face. His eyes seemed to possess an eerie intensity. The victorious hunter referred to the slain creature as a damned thing, and its blood soaked into the long, luxurious carpet behind him. Standing behind the hunter were 5 other individuals, all of whom appeared exhausted. The hunter's body was covered in the blood of his adversaries, and he loudly proclaimed the horse's demise. The people behind him cheered for another victory. One of the individuals approached Kyuho and suggested that he drink a regeneration potion to counteract any potential poison from the defeated creature. Kyuho expressed gratitude, praising the person's intelligence and stating his approval. The person smiled in response and handed Kyuho a plastic bottle. Another individual inquired if Kyuho had set a record by dispatching the boss creature so swiftly. The group expressed their satisfaction. Someone mentioned that it seemed Wang Kyuho had surpassed Kang Min. Kyuho nonchalantly remarked that he had long surpassed Kang Min and allowed him to take credit for the victory. This revelation astonished everyone, and they questioned the validity of the claim. Wang Kyo responded, discrediting the notion that Kang Min was the strongest among hunters, suggesting that it was all a lie. One of the individuals attempted to dispute this, but hesitated, admitting that Kang Min was indeed very powerful. Wang Kyuho's smile faded, his eyes widened, and he looked displeased. The person behind him was horrified and asked if Kyuho wasn't strong. Kyuho regained his smile and asked if the person was a newbie, instructing them to come closer. The person obediently approached, only to receive a painful kick to the stomach from Kyuho. Shocked and caught off guard, the person fell to the ground. Kyuho loomed over them, his tone menacing, and demanded to know who the person believed was stronger, himself or Kang Min. He ordered the frightened rookie to provide an answer. Realizing his error, the boy trembled with fear as he was compelled to admit that Kyuho was stronger. Kyuho and his 2 comrades smiled contentedly. One of them asked Kyuho what they should do next, to which Kyuho responded with a smile, telling them to wrap it up, and then join him outside. The 2 individuals grinned and confirmed that they would take care of it. A white-haired person asked Kyuho if they would meet at the same location as last time. Kyuho lit a cigarette, insulted them, and assured them that they would indeed go to that place again. He then put his hand in his pocket and commended their excellent work, suggesting they celebrate together. The man reached into his pocket and produced a magic stone, declaring that he would go first. As he did so, a purple wall emerged around him. With a smile, he instructed his partners to teach the newcomer a lesson and not to waste any time. They acknowledged his command and assured him they would be there shortly. Once the man left, they turned their attention to the newcomer, referring to him as a little jerk, and demanding to know his name. The newcomer, named Taiho, was visibly scared. One of the men sat down and asked Taiho his age, to which he timidly replied that he was 21. The man who sat down next to him grabbed his cheeks forcefully and moved closer, expressing his displeasure with Taiho's perceived insolence. He stated that even if Kang Min had been patronizing him, it meant nothing. Taiho disagreed, arguing that Taiho's behavior wasn't insolent at all. At that moment, a white-haired man grabbed Taiho by his golden hair and insulted him, stating that Kang Min was dead and no longer had any influence. He demanded that Taiho understand his place and learn quickly. Taiho pleaded for their forgiveness. A third man suggested that if Taiho wanted to ask for forgiveness, he should provide his sister's phone number. He yelled that he had heard Taiho had a sister who was more like a work of art than a human. Taiho bit his lip, recalling the actions of the hunters in the dungeons associated with the Gargoa Guild. During Kang Min's lifetime, Taiho had heard numerous stories about the Gargoa Guild's exploits in dungeons. Kang Min's guild was unique in that hunters never caused any trouble as long as the strongest hunter, possessing overwhelming power, was present. No one dared to recklessly stir up trouble when he was around. Kang Min was meticulous and never overlooked even the smallest mistakes that occurred in dungeons. He would thoroughly investigate to hold the responsible hunter accountable, regardless of the increasing number of enemies he gained as a result. Due to his immense strength, no one directly protested against Kang Min. Even before Taiho awakened as a metahuman, while living with his ordinary human sister, he was aware of Kang Min's reputation as an advocate for the protection of non-metahumans. To repay his sister's care, Taiho became a hunter and joined Kang Min's guild. Kang Min took him under his wing, watching over and protecting him. Everything seemed to be going well until Kang Min suddenly died in a mysterious accident. After Kang Min's death, Taiho became prey for other hunters. Those hunters who had once restrained themselves due to Kang Min's overwhelming power began to reveal their true colors, one after another. Taiho vividly remembered the hunters who bullied him, demanding that he bring his sister so they could be let off the hook. He despised these individuals and desired to eliminate them all, but his own weakness prevented him from doing so. Suddenly, someone entered the room, catching everyone's attention. Two individuals noticed immediately, and one asked who it was. Everyone turned to see Kang Hyuk entering with an army of undead at his side. The main character inquired about Wang Kyuho's whereabouts, prompting one of the men, with blood on his face and a menacing look, to question how Kang Hyuk had arrived, arguing that there should have been association guards present. Kang Hyuk refused to entertain their irrelevant questions and reiterated his inquiry about Wang Kyuho's whereabouts. One of the men replied that Wang Kyuho had already left and proceeded to inquire about the stranger's identity to Kang Hyuk. Licking his lips, Kang Hyuk asked if he was late and noticed the battered blonde stranger on the floor, trembling and looking at the man in question. Kang Hyuk turned to the stranger and asked if he knew where Wang Kyuho was. The stranger let out a loud scream, growing more frightened. The first man shouted at him for not answering the question, fueling his anger and prompting him to question the stranger's connection to Wang Kyuho. Finally, Kang Hyuk stated that he had come to see Wang Kyuho for personal reasons and commanded them once again to disclose his whereabouts. The man questioned why he should answer someone who appeared out of nowhere. They all closed in on Kang Hyuk, with the man adopting an informal tone, asking if Kang Hyuk knew him and how old he was. They formed a circle around Kang Hyuk, and another person interjected, questioning Kang Hyuk's interest in Wang Kyuho and claiming they had never met him before. Kang Hyuk turned to the individual, his burning red eyes leaving a trail in the air. Without even using his hands, he forcefully pushed the man away with a powerful gust, which turned out to be an arrow that pierced the man's chest, leaving him shocked and coughing up blood. Kang Hyuk then reiterated his demand to know Wang Kyuho's whereabouts, his mana emanating strongly, and his army of undead lined up behind him. The first man drew his blade in anger and insulted the stranger, referring to him as a goat, before they all launched an attack on the newcomer. A rift appeared in the air, expanding, and the skeletons joined the counterattack. A vibrant battle ensued, pitting the undead against the humans. The first man was brutally slammed into the wall, resulting in a spray of blood. The bald man had already been impaled on a skeleton spear. The undead reveled in the spectacle as they mounted and slaughtered the remaining attackers. Only Taiho, who was unharmed by the undead, pleaded for help as he crawled on the floor in terror. Suddenly, one of the men's severed head fell at Taiho's feet, causing his initial disappointment and fear to turn into panic. The men fought valiantly against the undead, with one of them questioning what these creatures were. It finally dawned on him that they were skeletons. Before he could complete his thought, one of the skeletons impaled him from behind with a long, sharp sword. As the terrified Taiho watched, the skeletons closed in on him. He moved backward in fear, hiccuping nervously. Kang Hyuk approached him and stated that Taiho had one last chance to save himself by revealing Wang Kyuho's location. Taiho stared at him in horror, wondering who this sudden intruder was and why he sought Wang Kyuho. Taiho tremulously informed him that Wang Kyuho was likely at the Canam Club, his voice shaking. Kang Hyuk asked if Taiho wanted to live, to which Taiho shouted loudly and confidently that he did. In response, Kang Hyuk instructed him to lead the way to the club. Taiho, startled and frightened, saw Kang Hyuk already making his way towards the exit. Just as Taiho was about to leave, the man confessed that he didn't know the exact address of the club. When Kang Hyuk ominously turned around, Taiho hastily offered to do anything to locate the club. To their surprise, as the dungeon opened again, two guards stood before the portal. The guards expressed their astonishment that only Kang Hyuk and Taiho emerged from the portal. One of the guards inquired if they were the sole survivors. Taiho glanced at Kang Hyuk and shouted affirmatively, stating that the boss was merely a formidable creature, which they hadn't anticipated. In that moment, Kang Hyuk realized that people on Earth were now facing a threat from these monsters, and only the hunters truly understood the situation within the dungeons. He also recognized that the association staff had no choice but to rely on the accounts of survivors, without any means of investigating the deaths. The guard acknowledged that the monster must have been exceptionally strong, but he grew suspicious and questioned why Hunter Wang Kyuho was not with them and how they managed to defeat the boss. Taiho had no answer and nervously stuttered, suggesting that Kang Hyuk arrived and killed the boss. Kang Hyuk glanced at Taiho, and the guard seemed content with the response, declaring that Mr. Kang Hyuk was responsible for defeating the monster. With a positive tone, the guard was satisfied about Taiho's response that Kang Hyuk had slain the monster. Taiho looked at Kang Hyuk with a puzzled expression and asked the guard if he was familiar with the man standing beside him. The guard responded that Taiho probably didn't know yet, as he had only recently awakened his metahuman abilities. The guard explained that the man next to Taiho was the older brother of the late Kang Min and mentioned that there hadn't been any official announcements, but everyone in the association was already aware of the news. This revelation greatly stunned Taiho, who realized that Kang Hyuk was Kang Min's older brother. Taiho's realization struck him profoundly. It became clear to him why Kang Hyuk possessed such incredible power. Taiho deduced that Kang Hyuk must also be a returner, similar to his brother. Returners were individuals with extraordinary abilities who had been summoned to another dimension and successfully returned to the earthly realm alive. Kang Min was the most recent returner, and despite this feat, he swiftly established his own guild and rapidly grew it into the formidable Gargoa Guild, which now stood as the strongest guild in the world. Suddenly, the guard called out to Taiho, startling him. Taiho turned around, and the guard questioned why they ventured out alone, where Wang Kyuho was, and how they managed to defeat the boss without him. Taiho explained that Wang Kyuho had urgent business and used the teleportation stone to leave. Then Kang Hyuk appeared and killed the boss. Both guards were taken aback by this unexpected turn of events from Wang Kyuho. The second guard reluctantly admitted that he had previously thought it was just a rumor but was now convinced. He expressed his confusion over the actions of the Gargoa Guild, suggesting that they should have expelled Wang Kyuho. The first guard sighed and remarked that while Kang Min was alive, Wang Kyuho was respectful and diligent, but now he seemed to do as he pleased. Kang Hyuk carefully listened to their conversation, his gaze fixed on the box of magic teleportation stones, which emitted a purple glow. It was widely known that after Kang Min's death, Wang Kyuho would often enter the dungeons and have his subordinates do the work while he used the teleportation stones to move around, which resulted in complaints about Wang Kyuho to the association. However, the Gargoa Guild held significant influence, preventing direct intervention by the association. Kang Hyuk ventured elsewhere. Furthermore, a conspicuous power struggle was unfolding within the guild, with numerous individuals vying for the vacant leadership position. Taiho grabbed Kang Hyuk's hand and expressed their intention to continue their journey. The guard informed them that they were free to do as they pleased and assured Taiho and Wang Kyuho's inclusion in the list of survivors. The guard then turned to Mr. Kang Hyuk and stated his intention to include Kang Hyuk's name in the report as well. Kang Hyuk, with a menacing gaze, firmly declined. The guards felt a chill run down their bodies and bid farewell to the group. As they looked back, one guard remarked to the other that they had goosebumps. The other guard agreed, adding that Kang Hyuk claimed to be Kang Min's brother, although he didn't resemble him. Taiho overheard the guards discussing Kang Hyuk as a returnee, indicating his considerable strength. One guard speculated that Kang Hyuk's strength was the reason he could fight the dungeon boss and eliminate the last. When asked who they believed was stronger between Kang Min and Kang Hyuk, one guard asserted that Kang Min was undoubtedly superior, while Kang Hyuk appeared entirely ordinary. Ahead, they noticed the vibrant yellow LED sign of the Gangnam Club. Kang Hyuk asked Taiho if Wang Kyuho was present here. Taiho clarified that it was one of the clubs Wang Kyuho frequents but couldn't confirm his current whereabouts. He apologized in advance and offered to take Kang Hyuk to another club he frequents if Wang Kyuho wasn't there. Kang Hyuk replied, stating that Taiho knew Wang Kyuho well. Taiho chuckled, denying the claim, mentioning that Wang Kyuho happened to be the leader of the squad he was in. Kang Hyuk inquired if Taiho went clubbing with Wang Kyuho, which puzzled Taiho. Taiho responded negatively, explaining that Wang Kyuho carried something with him everywhere. Kang Hyuk extended his arm, indicating they should go and search for him. Wang Kyuho immediately started moving, and they descended the stairs to the basement club. The club was already pulsating with multicolored lights, and the party was in full swing, with people dancing and enjoying themselves. A vibrant disco ball hung from the ceiling. Kang Hyuk and Taiho navigated through the crowd, which was teeming with people. A nearby individual let out a wide yawn as they proceeded along a long red carpet. A guard stood in front, positioned as a sentinel guarding a passageway to an unknown area. The guard didn't exchange greetings and simply informed them that they were late. Taiho apologized on their behalf and mentioned that Kang Min's older brother accompanied them. Kang Hyuk stood behind Taiho as the guard inquired about the older brother, directing his gaze momentarily at Taiho before shifting his attention to the protagonist. His striking red eyes stood out amidst the club's lighting, causing the guard to feel slightly uneasy. The guard inquired about their purpose for coming, and Kang Hyuk finally spoke up, asserting that he had not come to see the guard. This brusque response startled the guard, who then asked more aggressively if Kang Hyuk was truly Kang Min's older brother. Kang Hyuk affirmed his identity, and the guard's anger escalated rapidly. Kang Hyuk possessed a talent for provoking his surroundings. The guard muttered insults under his breath but quickly realized that all returners were incredibly powerful. As he observed Kang Hyuk's calm demeanor and Taiho's evident concern, the guard clenched his fists, realizing that there was no need to engage in conflict with returners. In the end, the guard let out a sigh and opened the door, allowing them to pass. Like others, he had assumed that all returners were the same. Kang Hyuk and Taiho entered the guarded room, which was illuminated with a pink light. Kang Hyuk noticed a confident-looking man nearby, who appeared more self-assured than Taiho. Further ahead, the protagonist spotted a red-haired man in a brown suit who stared intensely at the newcomers. All eyes were on Kang Hyuk and Taiho as they entered. Kang Hyuk began counting the people present in the room. One person smoked a cigarette, another read a book, and a third, with menacing red hair, locked eyes with Kang Hyuk. There was also a waiter, and 3 more individuals, making a total of 6. Additionally, there was a man in a red vest who eyed the newcomers suspiciously. Kang Hyuk counted 7 people in total but was disappointed to see that Wang Kyuho was not among them. The red-haired man asked what they wanted and then turned to Taiho, inquiring if he was one of the boys from Kyuho's squad. Taiho confirmed, introducing himself, and the man asked who Kang Hyuk was. Taiho pointed to Kang Hyuk, stating that he was Kang Min's older brother. This revelation shocked everyone in the room. Kang Hyuk turned to one of them and expressed his search for Wang Kyuho, asking about his whereabouts. The red-haired man smiled and concluded that Kang Hyuk must be Kang Min's older brother, rising from his seat to approach Kang Hyuk. Confirming the rumors, he mentioned that there had been talk within the association about the return of the late guildmaster's brother. He added, "So, it seems to be true." He introduced himself as Gu Changwu, the commander of the Goroya Guild Assault Battalion, and revealed that Wang Kyuho was his subordinate. Gu Changwu extended his hand to Kang Hyuk. Kang Hyuk shook his hand. Gu Changwu gestured for him to take a seat. Changwu swiftly instructed the others to bring drinks, noting that the elder brother of the late leader had come to visit. One of the individuals stood up and inquired about the purpose of the visit, mentioning Wang Kyuho's frequent presence in the club and asking why Kang Hyuk was looking for him. Kang Hyuk explained that it was a personal matter and asked again about Wang Kyuho's whereabouts. Gu Changwu felt a bit uneasy and approached Kang Hyuk even closer, suggesting that they should sit down first. He explained that Wang Kyuho had been involved in some unpleasant incidents lately and couldn't say for certain where he was at the moment. Changwu proposed that Kang Hyuk share his personnel file, and he would make sure Wang Kyuho received it. This response started to anger Kang Hyuk, who urged Gu Changwu to contact Wang Kyuho immediately. Gu Changwu appeared displeased as well and referred to Kang Hyuk as pig for persisting in his familiarity with him, expressing disbelief that Kang Hyuk was truly Kang Min's older brother. However, he smiled, realizing what he needed to do, and decided to let the matter slide this time, acknowledging Kang Hyuk as the returned one. He chuckled slightly and mentioned that it was challenging to contact Wang Kyuho but assured Kang Hyuk that he could send his men to search for him. Once again, he suggested that Kang Hyuk should engage in conversation, emphasizing that they couldn't disclose personal information about guild members to the first person they meet, as they were not a call center. Reluctantly, Kang Hyuk had to take a seat, and the guy in the blue sweatshirt promptly brought him a drink, handed over by Gu Changwu. The protagonist realized that he had walked into a den of snakes, allowing himself to be deceived because his purpose extended beyond Wang Kyuho. He harbored a burning desire to avenge his brother's murder and was well aware that the killer likely had accomplices among the hunters. However, he understood the importance of patience and gathering as much information as possible. Gu Changwu sat across from him and amicably expressed his respect for Kang Min, Kang Hyuk's older brother. Kang Hyuk commanded him to share everything he knew about Wang Kyuho, growing increasingly annoyed by the commander's clinginess. Gu Changwu admitted that he didn't have extensive knowledge about Wang Kyuho but mentioned their camaraderie. Meanwhile, the man in the red vest interrogated Taiho about the whereabouts of the others. Taiho felt uneasy, recalling the battle with the undead and the gruesome aftermath of pierced bodies. He hesitantly began describing the events in the dungeon, but his retelling became so prolonged that the man had to interrupt and inquire about the outcome. Taiho revealed that they all perished in the battle with the boss, causing a shockwave of disbelief among the group. One person stood up, slammed the table, and demanded to know which monster was responsible. Taiho, taken aback by the sudden outburst, admitted that he wasn't good with names and hadn't seen the creature before. The angered individual approached Taiho, threatening to kill him if he was lying, demanding the truth. Taiho, gripped by fear and surprise at Wang Qiuho's presence, confirmed the truth, acknowledging that the formidable entity was far stronger than anticipated. The person berated Taiho, claiming that Qiuho had boasted about killing the boss and leaving the rest of the cleanup to others, questioning who the real liar was. Taiho, trembling with fear, struggled to find words, realizing that he was mere centimeters away from the person's enraged face. Taiho managed to stammer that Qiuho indeed eliminated the boss and departed, but he abruptly fell silent. The person angrily demanded to know why he wasn't telling the truth, his anger evident through bulging veins. Taiho, under pressure, explained that while they were dealing with the aftermath, additional monsters appeared. Enraged by what he perceived as excuses, the person slapped Taiho forcefully. Gu Chengwu, incensed by this act, confronted the person, questioning their behavior. The person retorted that they were teaching the rookie a lesson, claiming that Taiho was making up stories. Gu Chengwu reminded them of the presence of an important guest and urged them to behave. The person begrudgingly agreed, wrapping their arm around the frightened and beaten Taiho, questioning whether he claimed that they were attacked by other monsters after defeating the boss. Taiho confirmed the truth, and the person inquired how he, being the weakest of the group, managed to survive, wondering if the devilish creatures had taken pity on him. Once again, Taiho found himself hesitating. He was visibly nervous and glanced at Kang Hyuk before finally speaking up, claiming that he was the one who saved him. This statement inexplicably elicited laughter from many in the room. Gu Chengwu interjected, mentioning that it was Kang Hyuk's late brother who had rescued Taiho. Taiho confirmed this once again and then turned to Kang Hyuk, inquiring about his abilities. However, Taiho hesitated once more, contemplating the fact that none of the returners had displayed necromancy abilities before. This uncertainty made him reluctant to reveal the truth. He bit his lip, considering the possibility that Kang Hyuk might harm him if he disclosed his abilities. Ultimately, Taiho made the decision to reply that he had already divulged everything he knew, using his nervousness as a cover. Kang Hyuk stood up, and Chengwu asked if they were ready to leave. Kang Hyuk questioned if there was anything else they needed to discuss, to which Guan replied that there was nothing. Kang Hyuk departed and instructed Taiho to accompany him. However, the other person exerted more pressure on Taiho, demanding to know where he was going, asserting that they hadn't finished their conversation. Taiho wanted to follow Kang Hyuk, but the individual clung tightly to him, insisting that he stay. Kang Hyuk shot an enraged glare at the person, calling him a jerk and declaring that he would go with Taiho. This angered the person, prompting him to ask if Kang Hyuk was overreacting. Guan slumped onto the couch and urged the person to release Taiho, stating that he should let him go if he needed him. The person gripped Taiho tightly and reproached Gu Chengwu for not telling him how the others had died. Gu Chengwu's patience wore thin, and he once again demanded that the person let go, warning him that he wouldn't repeat himself. He also questioned when the person had become interested in the lives of others, referring to him as a worthless subordinate. Finally, the person released Taiho, cautioning him to return promptly or else he would find his sister in danger. Taiho hurried to catch up with Kang Hyuk and responded affirmatively. The group watched as the duo walked away, their attention turning to discussions about Taiho's sister. They exchanged glances as they observed the backs of Taiho and Kang Hyuk, and the door in front of them slammed shut, illuminated by a pink light. The person then turned to Gu Chengwu, insulting him and questioning when he had learned to show off in front of the returners, emphasizing that the returners were not as strong as they seemed, especially in one-on-one battles. However, against all of them together, Kang Hyuk wouldn't stand a chance. Another blonde individual chimed in, stating that he had warned them not to confront the returners until they knew their abilities. He also admonished them for interfering when they first encountered the returners. The person turned to the boss and questioned what he had told Kang Hyuk, wondering if he had foolishly revealed Wang Qiuho's location to the first person he saw. Additionally, the person inquired about the note given to Kang Hyuk. Gu Changwoo replied that it was the address of the crematorium, prompting laughter from the group. A third person questioned if they should warn the others, considering that Kang Hyuk might cause trouble, given his status as a returners. Gu Changwoo reassured them, stating that they would find other returners at the crematorium to handle the situation. The person who had been picking on Taiho asked why he was so interested in Wang Qiuho. Gu Changwoo, Chanana admitted that he also found it suspicious. He stated that the returners would beat him severely, and he still held a grudge against Kang Hyuk for speaking to him informally. He mentioned that experiencing a severe beating made him realize that even on Earth, certain individuals were not to be crossed. The person asked their boss if they could go to the crematorium. Gu Changwoo responded that it was not their jurisdiction and instructed them to return to work. Someone called the person on the phone, and they picked it up, and it turned out to be Wang Qiuho. Gu Changwoo asked Wang Qiuho where he was, and Wang Qiuho replied that he was having a good time. Inquired if his guys had already visited him, and Wang Qiuho told him to send them there and join them, mentioning that he had some fresh girls. Gu Changwoo instructed him to come to his office immediately. This made Kang Hyuk tense, and he said he would come as soon as possible. Gu Changwoo remembered the intimidating and fear-inducing look from Kang Min's older brother. He knew that the individuals at the crematorium needed to deal with that brother, so he didn't understand why he was so nervous. Taiho and Kang Hyuk's car was parked in front of an inconspicuous gray house. They looked at it, and Taiho asked if they had arrived. Kang Hyuk questioned if Taiho knew what kind of place it was. Taiho replied that it was a crematorium, explaining that the Garoa Guild members who dealt with the aftermath of dungeon raids worked there. He also asked if Taiho had informed Gu Changwoo that Wang Qiuho would be there. Taiho wondered what Gu Changwoo was up to because he realized that Wang Qiuho would never come to that place. Kang Hyuk asked why they were at the building, and Taiho explained that some squads were hunting for traitors of the Garoa Guild and spies from other guilds. After obtaining data from these squads, the crematorium personnel would arrest the spies and traitors and make them confess under torture. Kang Hyuk understood everything. Taiho also clarified that Kang Min had nothing to do with the establishment of the place and that it was established after Kang Min's death. Taiho found it strange that Kang Hyuk wasn't interested in what was happening in his brother's guild. They arrived at the door, and Kang Hyuk asked if Wang Qiuho could really be there. Taiho replied that he wasn't sure and suggested they go inside to find out. Kang Hyuk instructed Taiho to lead the way. Taiho expressed surprise, as he had never been there before. Kang Hyuk adopted a menacing look and tone and told Taiho to do as he said or else he would die. This frightened Taiho, but he agreed because he had no choice. He proceeded forward. Inside the building, the people monitoring the security cameras were discussing the arrival of guests. One person informed the others that they had visitors that day. Another person asked who was there, and the first person mentioned that it was the deceased leader's older brother. The second person expressed surprise, questioning if he really came. The first person remarked that Kang Hyuk was even more foolish than they thought and asked if he even knew what the place was. The second person commented that Kang Hyuk's confidence stemmed from being in returners, just like Kang Min. The second person then shouted to the crowd, instructing them to go over there, stating that they received a call from Gu Changwoo, ordering them to escort the guests into the building and inform them that Wang Qiuho was present. The people understood and left the room with the security cameras. The building appeared to be an ordinary and unattractive office building. People were gathered in a conference room. One of the young men inquired about the abilities of someone, and the person replied that they didn't know yet. Another person asked where the individual was currently staying, and they responded that they had sent him to Kang Min's apartment to maintain constant surveillance. The man identified as Sangwook. Someone asked if he suspected anything about his brother's death. Sangwook dismissed the possibility, stating that his appearance on Earth was merely a coincidence. When asked how he knew about his brother's death while being in another dimension, he explained that it was an accident and that he seemed to understand. The young hunters listened attentively as Sangwook suggested they shouldn't make a big deal out of the returners. One person became angry and shouted about the sacrifices made to eliminate Kang Min. Sangwook acknowledged Kang Min's strength but doubted that his brother was superior to him. When asked why he thought so, he advised against jumping to conclusions until they gathered more information. A man dressed in a suit took the microphone and addressed the crowd, reassuring them that there was no need for excessive nervousness. He pointed out that Earth was home to numerous metahumans, and their numbers were growing steadily. He reminded everyone that they should not forget the fact that they had successfully defeated Kang Min with the combined power of the returners. Furthermore, he emphasized that even if Kang Min's brother was stronger, he would not be able to defeat them single-handedly. Expanding on the topic, he highlighted that hunters worldwide had already established their own power. Additionally, the hunters who were the first to return had developed a system that had been strengthened by the subsequent arrival of more returners. The man pointed out that Kang Min had attempted to disrupt this system, but his efforts ultimately failed. While no one could defeat him in a one-on-one battle, it became evident that despite his immense strength, Kang Min was unable to overcome an entire group by himself. A man wearing a polo shirt responded, commenting on Kang Min's recklessness and expressing the need to observe how Kang Hyuk would fare. He made it clear that if Kang Hyuk followed in Kang Min's footsteps, they would eliminate him as well. Sang-wook concurred, affirming that if Kang Hyuk became a nuisance, they would take measures against him. Continuing his address, Sang-wook mentioned that during their meeting with the association president, they were instructed to simply keep an eye on Kang Hyuk for the time being. He acknowledged that all the listeners were leaders of the guilds in South Korea and believed it was important to share this information with them. A man in a sweatshirt interjected, demanding that they uncover Kang Hyuk's ability. He explicitly stated that he should not be contacted about any other matter unless it pertained to Kang Hyuk. He emphasized the extent of his current responsibilities and projects. Sang-wook apologized for taking up the guildmaster's valuable time. The man in the suit attentively absorbed the ongoing conversation. A group of individuals, clutching a purple crystal, insisted that Sang-wook inform the president to eradicate all data associated with Kang Min. Sang-wook responded, stating that they had already taken care of that matter on the day Kang Hyuk arrived. The only information shared with Kang Hyuk was akin to a personal profile. Holding the purple crystal, one of the individuals demanded close monitoring of Kang Hyuk and requested to be kept informed of any developments. Sang-wook acknowledged their request. As he adjusted his necktie, Sang-wook couldn't help but think about how he was always sent to meetings where scoldings were inevitable.
Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button for more content. Feel free to leave a comment down below sharing your thoughts or suggestions. If you want to stay updated on all our latest uploads, click the notification bell icon. And hey, why not check out some of our other videos popping up on the screen right now? If you'd like to support the channel, you can do so by liking, sharing, and subscribing. It really means a lot. Peace.